All right, hello, Sooner Nation. It is playoff time. We are anxiously waiting our first home playoff game, and to me, the biggest home game in OU football history. I mean, I think
I
it's safe
mean,
to say.
it has to be, right? I mean, hopefully when you're probably a lot of you guys, you're listening to this, you may be driving to Norman right now, whether this is you took off work all day Friday, or you're working half a day, or whatever you're doing, you're on your way to Norman to go to this. Right now, as Jeremy and I record this, we're about 48 hours away, and it's just almost surreal to think I'm about to go to a college football playoff game in Norman against Alabama. I mean, it's just unbelievably exciting.
Yeah, I'd be really interested too. I know they'll probably put a number out there like the revenue that we bring into Norman for this game. I mean, I think that's really what's going to end up making these first two rounds probably be home games, because I think you have to reward these guys, these schools.
I just don't see any reason why this isn't a 16-team playoff and you at least let those first. I mean, I agree, and I think we touched on this a little bit last week. The bowl system is antiquated, and it probably needs to go. As far as the bowls being tied to part of this, I think neutral sites, semifinals, and finals make sense. Probably the first two rounds need to be home games, and I could definitely see that as something that's going to happen. But I think with hopping right in there, Jeremy, all it took was a playoff game for us to have less people on the injury report than the other team. Pretty amazing
what do
stuff,
you know?
right?
You give us 3 weeks off, we might might get some guys healthy. So love not seeing our Mason on that list. Michael, I would assume he's probably, even if he is a go, he's probably not starting. Just other than that, Kendall Dobie announced today that he's hitting the portal, which is not a surprise.
No, and I think some people were trying to give BV a little bit of a bad name too. I was coming home from work today and I listened to a recording of BV's Zoom press conference, and one of I think it was an OU Daily guy, asked him about Kendall Dobie, and BV is like, "Look, we're not talking about guys who aren't here," and the context of it was this is college football playoff time right now. It's not portal time. Right now, it's not talking about that. BV's been very complimentary of Kendall Dobie. BV's not the guy who rips people on their way out. So any framing of that, I think, is wrong. But it's college football playoff time. See you later. Let's go.
Yeah. And really interested to see what Javonte Barnes, if you're going to say, I've heard a lot of people say, well, why does it matter if Javonte Barnes comes back? I say for pass blocking alone would not be bad to get him in there, just because you get to a situation where you can't run the ball and you're throwing it. Wouldn't it be good to have a running back that can run or pass block?
Well, and I think too, Jeremy, I think some of the gloves will be off, pun intended here, with I think some of the best news I heard so far is that Mateer didn't have any KT tape on his hand. Thought Brent was also very candid in that, of saying it's better, that his grip power is better, but there is still some soreness there. I think Brent's just being honest on that, which I thought was nice. But all that being said, I look for Mateer to get 15 to 20 carries this week. I think John Mateer will run the ball the most of any of the OU players. And I know there's people out there who are banging their hand down with that, saying, if Robinson and Barnes is back, and then obviously Blaylock's healthier, why in the world are we running Mateer? Because that's the offense, and that's who we trust the most. And I do think Alabama's been susceptible from that. I mean, even in the Big 12. See, look at that. Still happens every once in a while. Even in the SEC championship game. In the SEC championship game, that was something Georgia even had a little bit of success with. And I think we can all agree that Mateer is a better runner than Stetson Bennett. So look for a lot of quarterback run from John Mateer tomorrow, Friday night.
And I think we're naive to say that hand has been an issue since he hurt it. I mean, you look at the Texas game, it is the worst game he played all season. And it put that doubt in his head. And you can tell he's kind of carried that the rest of the season. But they're telling John Mateer, just like Alabama's telling Ty Simpson, do not make mistakes.
Don't you think, Jeremy, probably an underrated thing that's been talked about injury-wise from Mateer, if you remember the immediate aftermath of Auburn game was not that Mateer hurt his hand. It was that the rumors, the quote unquote insiders were saying he's got a hurt knee. And
Yeah.
I do think, and we both know that he's had fluid drained off that knee a couple of different times, but nothing recently. That I do think there's been some major healing that's came with that as well. If you notice from the clip, hopefully the blocking dummy didn't re-injure his knee when he took the 3-step drop and got tackled by the blocking dummy. But I think a healthy John Mateer's legs are just as not as important, but are very, very important too. And I think he's been playing with a broken hand and a bum knee.
Yeah, our friend group is basically said OU's going to get beat because John Mateer got tackled by that tackle dummy. So ruined their evenings. I was like,
well,
I always thought it was more funny. I thought it was more funny than just like, oh God, we're screwed now. I'm like,
it's all about perspective, Jeremy. It's all about perspective.
Bad footwork. I mean, that's what it is. So
yeah.
But one thing that we kind of slightly mentioned it, but I think the biggest thing is we're getting our Mason Thomas back. And
pretty good football player, Jeremy.
I heard he can play football. Not to mention,
you heard it here on Centercast first. Our Mason Thomas,
Thomas is very good. But Taylor Wime destroyed Alabama, and can you imagine now? He's not going to have Proctor on him more than likely. So now you're flip flopping those two, and you've got these two ends that are going to wreak havoc. I guarantee you, in Proctor, that's our offensive lineman name, isn't it?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, I'm making sure I'm not mispronounced because I have had a tendency to do that. But his weakness is speed rushing, and that's what our Mason Thomas's strength is. So I really think our Mason Thomas is going to give them fits.
Well, and that's something too, and it looks like Jam Miller is going to play for them. But, we all know, it's been well documented, Alabama has a really hard time establishing the run. But also their running backs have been really bad in helping in pass protection too. And if they're having to put a tight end in the backfield, which they did quite a bit last time, or a receiver in the backfield, which they did, some last time as well, it's not that they're incapable of doing that. And as much as I've doubted Kalen DeBoer over these couple of years that he's been there, Kalen DeBoer is a good offensive mind. And there's going to be some wrinkle he shows with that. And I do expect him to try to use our aggressiveness against us. But that being said, it's going to be really fun to see that chess match going on between DeBoer, between Alabama and BV, just going, how aggressive can we be? How aggressive do we need to be? But we all know that if we can get pressure without blitzing, that just makes our defense all that much better. If we can get pressure just from those ends and from those tackles, and if they're not able to chip and help and all those things, I just think those are big, big, big things. And I agree, Jeremy. I think our Mason Thomas is Caden Proctor's worst nightmare.
Oh, it is. I think he's probably going to push him to the second or third round.
Yeah,
he's like, they got Kenny Blunt, but
he's going to ask to go back and play in the backfield more, like they like to do, in that goal line situation.
I said something about this on our friend group the other day because we were talking about Nick Benito, and we're like, can you imagine if Nick Benito got to be coached under Brent Venables? And I would say our Mason Thomas is probably what Nick Benito would be, if you want my honest opinion, just because they have the same kind of characteristics, how they play. And our Mason, if you want to take one football player that's benefited from Brent Venables being here, our Mason Thomas is at the top of the list.
I mean, without a doubt. And, all the stuff that's came out about how good of a leader he was when he wasn't playing and all that stuff. I mean, that's going to be, not that I think additional juice is going to be needed, but that is going to be a jolt of energy. Now, I think it's always something I haven't heard a whole lot about, and it's been a really mysterious injury to me, is what really happened with the Keontez Lewis concussion and, all those things. And he hasn't really been a big part and all that. Interested to see if getting him back can be a boost offensively. I think if you give Alabama time to look at us again and all those sorts of things, to me, I'm trying to take Satanga away. and I'm
Yeah.
trying to see what other people can do. Most receiving yards of any SEC receiver during SEC play was Isaiah Satanga. And so, to me, that should open some things up for Jaron Kanik. That should open some things up for Giovanni Gibson, maybe a Keontae Lewis, those sorts of things. And it's just going to be interesting to see what happens there. And this is me sunshine pumping. So, if you want to, take a drink or whatever it is, this is Goss believing in the offense a little too much again. But I mean, I just have this maybe stupid, silly optimism that we're the healthiest we've been offensively in a really, really long time. We've had some time to really step back away and look, because we haven't had, due to some injuries and due to some timing, just that extra time throughout the season to try to iron out some kinks. And hopefully we did. And I mean, I'm just optimistic that we're going to be able to get to a point offensively that I think, I saw some things against LSU that were really good. Now, obviously we don't want the turnovers, but that was the most yards we had since Temple. And LSU's defense is very comparable to Alabama's. I think it's a good defense. I don't think it's as good as ours or Ohio State's, but I think it's a good defense. And if we can get that same yardage or even more without the turnovers, maybe this is the week that we do bust through and score 28, 30 points, something like that.
Am I not? Maybe I'm just being, like you said, sunshine pumping here, but I almost felt like watching that offense in what being called Red November, almost like we played to not lose. Like, we're not taking a whole lot of chances. We're just trying to be smart with the ball. You know what? Brent Venables did what he had to do to win football games. That was his best option. Now to me, when you're in the playoffs, you've made the playoffs. You've kind of got that monkey off your back. Now you're playing with house money, in my opinion. To me, whatever happens now, like, obviously we want to win a national championship. I want to win a national championship. I'm going to be so upset if we lose on Friday. But that said, I'm not going to say the season was a disappointment. And now we're playing with house money, and we can take a few chances, maybe throw a few more wrinkles in there that we haven't shown all season. And I just keep thinking, like, there's more on the table that we're not showing, in my opinion. I mean, so
maybe we get the 150-yard game out of Deion Burks. Maybe that comes. I think Deion's got the talent. I don't think Alabama's corners are just awesome. I don't think they're great tacklers. I think there's a chance, that could happen. That'd be awesome if it did. Maybe this is the game that, one of those things happen. We don't know, but in these games like this is a big game. But the nice part about it is, Jeremy, we've been playing playoff games since November started. And here we are in the middle of December. And we've been playing playoff games for a long time. And teams like this, not to just steal the phrase, but it's hard to kill. And Alabama is going to have to walk into Gaylord Family Memorial Stadium Friday night in front of what I hope is the best atmosphere in school history and kill us. They're going to have to kill us because this team has shown that it's not going to kill itself anymore, and they're going to have to come in and kill us.
Yeah, not to mention it's going to be the best weather probably that we've ever had on December 19th. I mean, 70 degrees is like what they're anticipating. I mean, who would have thought that? So sorry to interrupt. I was just
no, you're good. I mean, I just, we're not the Vegas favorite. And if I
love that.
If I'm Ben Arbuckle, I mean, the only thing with this is it's a little bit of a slippery slope of John Mateer told us a little bit who he is. He's a guy who lets doubt creep in sometimes. He's a guy who's really hard on himself. I think he's the guy who probably needs to be told he's the man. Yeah. As opposed to you can't do it. But I am using every bit of negative junk that I've seen. I'm cutting everything I saw from the Joel Klatz, from the Bear, from all those different people who said we just don't belong and our offense can't get it done. I am playing that stuff on loop in the training room, in the weight room, in the locker room. Heck, I'm putting that stuff on the Jumbotron during practice. Okay. I'm doing every bit of that to motivate and to squeeze whatever bit of life I can get out of that. Because if we could go out there and have some success early offensively, man, it just makes things totally different.
And I'm still to the belief if a couple good things happen with John Mateer, we've seen what he does playing with confidence. You give me Michigan John Mateer, Auburn John Mateer.
Yeah. Second half Auburn for sure. Yeah.
I mean, do you remember those drives that he put together basically to seal those games?
Yeah. The pass down the sideline, the home sideline to Satanga in that Michigan game, rolling out.
And I just feel like the guy's not playing with any confidence. Like he's just afraid, okay, something bad's about to happen. And to me, if I'm Brent Venables and Ben Arbuckle, I pull him in the office and be like, listen, you're our quarterback going forward. Like even next year, you want to come back, you are a quarterback. Like put that in his head because there's doubt. There's no doubt about it. You got all.
And don't you think some of the doubt though comes from Jeremy? You're playing with a broken hand, and he's had to play all season with a mixed bag at receiver between who we thought was going to be his best receiver last spring, getting hurt in the spring, not having a normal start. His security blanket, the guy that was his best receiver when he was playing early in the year, almost dying on the field.
Yeah.
With Lewis getting knocked out. And then you've got the emergence of Satanga, who's been good. And then you had Kanik kind of disappear. We've had a rotating room at running back. There's been lots of questions. And you're like, gosh, you're not helping anything. You're talking about how bad we've been offensively. I understand that. But there's reasons for these things. These things are not without reason. And trying to be a reasonable person, there's no reason why this can't be better again on Friday night. There's no reason it can't. And, we had some success. And I know everyone's told you about how awful we were on, down at Alabama. Our very first, how that game started, in case anyone forgot, Alabama gets the ball. They go 3 and out. We get it back. Okay. Our first play is an 18-yard pass, throws it to Burks right down the middle, 18 yards, first down. Then we go no huddle, shotgun, 4-yard run. And, we're doing all those things just trying to get the pace going in the very beginning. And we end with, things that happen a whole lot with us is a field goal at the end. Okay. And that's good. But don't be shocked if this Oklahoma team doesn't come out playing a little bit of tempo early, playing a little bit different, playing a little bit to, I don't have these stats in front of me, but I would say, Jeremy, wouldn't you, that our yards per play in tempo is probably 3 times greater than our yards per play when we're not playing tempo? I mean, wouldn't you probably agree with that?
Yeah, I agree. But also, too, people don't game plan for us to be tempo.
Yeah.
And that's another thing to just throw another wrinkle. And one thing and this is going to probably be blasphemy since we still got battle scars from last year, but I kind of want to see some sweeps, wide receiver sweeps, even if we just fake the sweep, fake it the running back, roll material out, put some window dressing on this running game, because us handing off to the running back isn't working.
Okay.
So
the people who know more football than Jeremy and I, and there's 3 of them that are out there, but that's a joke. There's a lot of them that do. The deeper that people have dug into what's the problem with Oklahoma and why they weren't doing an offense, and this isn't a glazing of Ben Arbuckle, but if you go back and watch the film and watch the tape and listen to the people who really know, there's been a lot of things that were schemed open. There's been lots of things that were there. And John just really hasn't been able to make those plays. And we're hoping that a healthier John Mateer, a more confident John Mateer, a John Mateer with better playmakers that are there, I think those schemes are going to be even more open on Saturday than they have been. And
I agree. That's 100. I think Ben Arbuckle's taken a lot of the abuse, saying and I don't think he's called bad games. I just think we've missed
has he made some bad calls? 100%. 100%. He's not without blame, but I think if we're doing the blame pie, he's not as big as, to me, most OU fans would put him on that.
Absolutely.
I don't think so. Now,
And also, too, I don't think there's enough out there to where you can say,
speaking
like,
of coaching, every day Michigan doesn't hire a coach is another day that there's more. And I know DeBoer came out and said that, he's not going anywhere and that sort of thing. But if you really read that statement, it's a little bit vague. It was not the old complete. I mean, it wasn't Lincoln Riley being, I'm not going to be the next head coach at LSU. It wasn't like that, but there was still a little bit of gray in some of that. And so we still want distraction. And something that's always interesting is you get on X, you read through tweets and sorts of things, and there's still a lot of angst amongst the Alabama fans. There's still a lot of angry OU fan energy from those guys of, well, here we go. LT Overton's not going to play. And maybe Cuevas isn't going to play. And, God, we got all these people. Look at our injury report. And,
look at our injury report. No use. OU doesn't have anybody on there. Like, have you seen our injury report?
Whoa, we'll take that. But, it's just interesting to me to see the other side of it. Now, there's an arrogance to the Alabama fans who are just like, please, Oklahoma is not beating us again. That was a fluke last time. We outgained them. If you look at what happened in the second quarter and the start of the third quarter, we were taking it to their defense. We go and we score on like 3 out of 4 drives, and that's who we are. We're going to go do that. We've made the adjustments, yada, yada, yada. We didn't have this person or that person. We're going to have them now. We're healthier than we've been. And you've given us time to retool, and we're just going to go in there and show people we're the team that went into Georgia and beat them. If we can go into Georgia and win, why in the world are we scared to go into Oklahoma and win? I understand that side. And there is a small fraction of that. And there's that part of the Alabama fan. There's that part of the Alabama psyche. There's also the psyche of, we've lost to these dudes 2 freaking times in a row. And they beat us last year with Jackson Stinking Arnold at quarterback here. And they've already been down to our place and beat us. And then I'm going to walk into this rabid fan base who's just dying for success to happen. And I got a coach who, man, he just doesn't fit. And they, these people, blah, blah, blah. That snowball is possible. It's possible, Jeremy. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but that snowball is possible.
I think the DeBoer deal, I think he's keeping it out there because what did they do lose? Alabama faithful is going to be going after DeBoer, ready for him to go. So what's the easy decision for him? Well, I got a fan base that wants me.
Yes,
I'll go over there. It's like, to me, this is just me thinking this, I might be full of crap, which I most of the time am. But that said, I look at it as if I was coaching the Alabama Crimson Tide, and let's just say OU's open. I'll look at it and I'll say, well, I don't want to turn that down just yet because what if I get beat here? Yeah. And then I could still possibly go there. It's just, to me, I look at it that way where it's like, okay, he wants to keep that door open just in case because
there's just a crack. There's a crack. And who knows? Maybe by the time you're listening to this, Jed Fish has already been announced as head coach at Michigan. And you know what? Maybe he has. But it's just kind of like Sark and some of the NFL stuff. There's still a lot of smoke to go with that, Now, speaking of coaches going to the NFL, I did hear a rumor of Lincoln Riley to Tampa Bay, and good grief. I mean, I forget which pod it was on that. I think it was an unofficial 40 that was talking about that. But man, we wouldn't know what to do with that. But
I would love. I'll be honest with you. Like, I'm so frustrated with Todd Bowles right now that to blow that game against the Falcons the other night, I was just like, oh my God. And NFL is such a crazy, crazy league. Like, you could be top of the world, and 4 games later, you're the worst coach ever. And same deal with, and to me, it's like, isn't Todd Bowles he was a defensive coordinator, wasn't he?
Right. Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, how's our defense suck? I say our now. Sorry, I'm a Bucs fan now. Okay, so I go wherever Baker goes. Baker wants to go somewhere else, I'll go follow them. So
exactly.
But I would be very interested if I could see Lincoln Riley entertaining that because it is Baker.
Well, it just and I bring that stuff up not just to talk about Baker, but just to understand, once again, guys, we have the stability. What we did, bringing in Jim Nagy and having the success we had this year with Brent Venables, just puts us in a very enviable position that we just have more stability. And you can say that even with our athletic director position being open, but there's lots of stability that's there. And stability is a good thing. It just is.
Mm-hmm.
So before we move on, a couple of things. We've already had an Alabama preview pod before, but did you know? Okay, here's a quote. Here's a quote from Bear Bryant. Okay, we obviously all know who Bear Bryant is. Listen to this pod. If it was, and as I'm going somewhere with this, just go with me here. Okay. And so, as most of you who follow this pod know, Coach Stoops retired again this week. And no, he did not retire to be our next athletic director. I've seen some people throwing that out there. But he is no longer the coach of the Dallas Renegades or whatever that XFL, UFL, whatever team was. But that brings me back to a quote I saw from Bear Bryant. Bear Bryant said, Bear was getting pretty old. Why are you still coaching, Bear? And he said, well, I'm gonna coach. If I'm not coaching, I'll just croak. Well, when Bear Bryant retired, he died 27 days later. Okay, so he was a man.
Gosh, you're saying Bob Stoops is gonna die?
So
man, this went dark.
I'm saying that to be like, look, we don't know how much longer Bob's got, guys. We need to go win this one for Bob. Win it for Bob.
Well, I'm sorry.
We need it for Bob.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Put me in the group that I do think he's going to be our AD. But there's just too many pieces that are falling in place. Do you think that Joe Castiglione hasn't called Bob Stoops and say you'd be a good athletic director? Which I do think Bob Stoops is the type of person. Now it might be a Tom Osborne type deal, but I do think that he would be a good AD. I mean,
he's too busy selling tequila and playing golf. He
can still sell tequila. He could run a freaking sports program and sell tequila. I mean, hell, I'd do it. But yeah. I mean, sorry, I just don't want Bob. Don't die. I'm scared now. I don't want you sitting at home. I had you at 1 foot in the grave, for crying out loud.
So hey, 27 days. So look, that would be enough time for us to win a national. Almost enough time for us to get us to the national championship game. I think so. There we go.
Hey.
Win it for Bob, guys. Win it for Bob.
I was looking at the bracket and stuff like that in the games, and wouldn't it be the most A&M thing to do to have the season they did and then lose the last 2 games and be done? That is so Texas A&M. And then they're like Elko, they're putting him on the hot seat. Nothing would surprise me more. I was looking, I was like, Miami goes in there and beats A&M. A&M has this dream season.
So let's do this before we move on to any hoops, Jeremy. We got to make a couple of predictions here. Prediction 1, these are our easier ones. Predict the other 3 playoff games for me.
Okay, so let's just start with A&M and Miami. I'm picking Miami. I don't know why. I just feel like Miami's they're in it now. They're kind of like we are, playing with house money. Texas A&M didn't play very good against Texas. I just feel like Miami's going to win that one.
Yeah. I'm going to take A&M just because I think Carson Beck is a loser. Yeah. But at the same time, Carson Beck's driven a Lamborghini. I have not. So who am I to call anyone a loser?
Carson Beck's got a Cavender twin. I have not.
All that being said, I will go ahead and pick A&M, but I agree with Jeremy. I could definitely see, you talk about adding a 4th story to that stadium. If that game's tight late, there will be bricks crapped out of their white pantsuits, and that might be a full dome by the time that game's over. I'm going to go ahead and go out on a limb, and I'm going to pick Ole Miss to beat Tulane.
Yeah, for some reason, I just feel like, who would have thought that? I think Ole Miss can pull it out, seeing that Summerall's already at Florida. I mean, he's okay. No, I'm sorry. He's coaching Tulane, but he is Florida's head coach. But
shout out to Summerall. I saw he's donating some money to Tulane's NIL. I think he's a solid dude. And I think it's one of those things of, if the coaching cycle was later, and like let's say Lane had already left and Summerall was coaching for a bigger time job, I might like Tulane in an upset here, but with him out the door and all that, yeah, I can't see it.
Keep an eye on that. I mean, a lot of stuff's going on at Ole Miss. Yeah. I'm still picking Ole Miss, but that said, I mean, it could be to me the same way it could be at Texas A&M. If Miami starts getting on a roll, Texas A&M, that doubt rolls through their head, and I think that's the same way with Ole Miss. Like, oh crap, we're in a dogfight.
Any faith in the Dukes of James Madison, Jeremy?
No. Okay. No, I do not.
I don't either. I think that's going to be I think that game's a wash away.
I don't think it's going to be OSU Oregon type, but it could be very similar.
I think that's a wash away game there as well. And once again, that coach is out the door. He's going to UCLA, I think, right? Is that where that guy's going? But it doesn't matter. Nobody's listening to this part of it anyway. No one's here for our James Madison takes, but people might be interested in
James Madison football.
Yeah. But people might be interested in our OU picks here. Shocker, Jeremy. I'm going to pick OU to win.
I would never have thought it.
Yeah.
I've gone back and forth. Like, I'm picking OU, but I'm like, do I think we're going to score points? I don't know why. I'm almost feel like you're like 60-3 on some games. So it's like, but I look at it, I'm like, I think like a 27-16 game, just like something that we maybe get a turnover here and there. I just feel like our offense has got some stuff in the bag that maybe we hadn't shown, and we put some new wrinkles in. Mateer plays a little more confidence, and look at it. That's 27 points. Yeah. My mark's always 24. We score more than 24, we got a pretty damn good chance to win the football game. So,
well, I'm going a little bit higher scoring for this game because I think it was I think it was Gabe and Teddy who talked about this, but I really think it's a good take. I see Alabama scoring on some gadget play at some point. I think that's probably going to happen. I could see Ryan Williams just busting a play at some point. I could see that happening. And let's just say that turnover happens, whatever. We give up 21 points. Sounds bad. Giving up 21 points bad. But never fear. Our vaunted offense is near. Sooners 30. Tied 21.
And then we start looking for people to get us to the Rose Bowl.
Yes, exactly. Our Venmos will be flashing across after that as
see a banner on Sunday night to say Venmo.
Yeah, we get AI a little plane to keep flying by between each deal.
If you're asking what the plane is, that is our Venmo. We're trying to get the Rose Bowl.
But speaking of irrational confidence, Jeremy, let's talk a little Bedlam hoops before we sign off.
Yeah, absolutely. Me and Goss were talking before we got on. Those four games where we said we got to at least go 2-2. We went 3-1. Yep. They are making, to me, it's like they're starting getting used to playing with each other. Like I've said many times, in portal world and basketball, you've got a new team every year. That's basketball. Yep. And so we've got shooters. It's just, we have to knock down shots to win games. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. We don't run a good enough offense. We don't have presence down low that's going to dominate. We don't rebound well. So, we have to knock down outside shots. But thing is we do have players that knock down shots, and I felt like that's what we did in Bedlam.
Well, and to me, this team is a little bit easier in some ways to figure out than some of the teams have been in the past. And we've talked about it a lot. You've heard me talk about it on here a lot, and I'm going to continue to say it. When Mo is playing, this team's good. When Mo's not playing, this team is not very good. And I think he's got to learn how to stay out of foul trouble. I'd be interested to see if Kai Rogers can continue to get a little better. Maybe by conference play, he's better. But the kind of more nuanced take that I have to anything is I think we pretty much know we're going to get on Nigel Pack. I think he's going to have an off game here or there, but I think 3 out of 4 games, he's going to shoot the 3 ball well. He's 25 years old. You know, he's a professional basketball player at this point. But to me, Xavier Brown is our X factor. When he's good, we're good. To me, that's why we won the Bedlam game on Saturday. Is he was good, so we were good. UMKC yesterday is a bye game. There's nothing to glean from that except Brown once again hit shots. And you know, coming into the Bedlam game, he was 0 for 14 from 3. Was able to hit some there. And also was able to hit 2 more yesterday. And so those are all positive things going forward. I think Davis and Darion Reed are both going to continue to get better. I think they're, you know, SEC caliber players. A player I would kind of like to see more of is Jeff Nwaku. I think he's a guy, I think the lefty finish he had in the OSU game was probably one of the bigger shots as far as just creating some distance. I think he's a guy who can create his own shot a little bit too. But all in all, happier with Sooner Hoops. And now we're just going to get to, I think we're in a position, I saw Lenardi had us as like one of the first 4 out, or maybe the next 4 out. But, you know, right there on that bubble. And, you know, we're going into conference play, and we got to find a way to try to play around 500 in the conference.
Yeah,
I mean, that's just
and you tell me like before the season, like we have a non-conference schedule where we lose 3 games. I'm probably pretty upbeat, to be honest with you. And
I mean, this is a tougher non-conference schedule than we've played in the past. I mean, you look at the 3 teams we've lost to. I mean, I'm still mad about the Nebraska game, but Nebraska goes and beats Illinois in Champaign this last weekend. So that's not a bad loss. It's not. It's a frustrating loss. It's bad we gave them 105 points. But it's not a loss to a bad team. Gonzaga is a Final Four, Elite Eight contending team. Mm-hmm. Arizona State, you know, they're a bubble team, probably like us too. And we kind of ran into the proverbial hornet's nest that night. But we've got some quality, we got some decent wins too. And so, all in all, guys, where we're at, I think we're kind of right where quote unquote we need to be. And we'll just see where we're at conference wise.
Yeah,
Jeremy and I talked, and we thought this team's got more meat to it than some of our previous teams, that maybe it's a little more SEC ready that can go do better in the conference game.
Well, and I think in years past, I felt like the finishing piece was already on the team before we got to the conference play, which can be a good deal and it can be a bad deal. It's like we'd already hit our peak. To me, we haven't hit our peak yet.
No, 100%.
You know, how we can play. And so there's a lot of improvement, and we're only going to get better the more we play with each other, the more these guys get comfortable. And now the competition's going to get tougher. Now, the bright side to it is our conference schedule doesn't start like murderer's row by any means. So you look at Kentucky is not playing good. You know, Pope,
they might be, I mean, good gravy. You think Alabama fans are frustrated with DeBoer. It's not good to be Mark Pope in Kentucky right now.
Yeah. I just, and you know what? I look
Maybe
at
John Calipari wasn't the idiot they thought he was.
No, Calipari's got Arkansas, you know. Calipari's doing what he does.
I think Arkansas is pretty good. I watched some of that Arkansas. I think it was Arkansas, Texas Tech. Is that what game was on this weekend?
Yeah.
And watched them and thought, I mean, Arkansas's 2 losses are to Michigan State and Duke, who are both, you know, Final Four contending teams. So we got lots of times.
Yeah, Calipari's a hell of a coach. I don't care. Like, the guy can be a scumbag. Dude, still, he knows the game. And you know what? It's like they talk about the NIL game. He complains about the NIL game, but he still knows how to play it. So,
and I'll tell you somebody who, you know, I've been critical sometimes of her X's and O's, but man, Jenny owns the Cowgirls, you know, and I really talk about not playing their best. I really feel like this OU women's team's got a chance. They can get all those pieces going together. I really like this roster. If Jenny can push all the right buttons and this team can figure out a little more continuity, get some better shots, learn to be a little tougher on defense. Chavez is going to be that person, guys. She is. There's flashes of it right now. It's not every night. It's not every possession, but it's coming. And
to me, she's a freshman, and you can't.
This is a team that can get things right and can get to the Final Four. It is, but they've got some things they've got to get right.
Yeah, and to me, I can see Chavez being, as she gets older, being like a Caitlin Clark. where it's just somebody because she's getting better every game right now.
Yeah, and she's legit fun to watch. I mean, like some of the shots she takes, you're like, wow, it's a shot that she's taking. But now, speaking of freshman phenoms and people that we had high hopes for, someone that we no longer have high hopes for that has made an interesting decision. Jeremy and I have tried to be politically correct about Sophia Bordy and some of the things that, the choices she made and some homesickness and that sort of thing. But Jeremy, just kind of catch up the fans if anyone doesn't follow along. Just kind of give everyone a little refresher course in what we're talking about here.
Okay. Sophia Bordy, who she was a freshman for OU, she redshirted this last year. Pitcher was, I think, the number one player in the nation. Wasn't she number one?
Definitely number one pitcher. I'd be number one player.
Yeah, definitely number one pitcher from California. Where she's from, California. And Patty sent her home a couple times this year because she was getting homesick and dismissed home and like kind of like off limits. Nobody talked about it. And it's just like you give her space. She's going through some mental stuff. Just kids being away from home. So then the news hit that she's transferring. So where do you think she's going to go? You think she's going to go West Coast. She commits to the University of Texas yesterday. And if you wanted to put more fire on, Mike White alone puts fire on that rivalry. Now Sophia Bordy being there. So the rumors opened up of like what really was the case. To me, if you want my honest opinion, being a person who's been around a lot of softball, I think she realized that she wasn't going to get much playing time at OU. And she's the number one pitcher in the nation. She should be coming in, like playing right away, blah, blah, blah. I think it's just come to a point where she wants to go somewhere where she can be the head dog. And she wasn't going to be the head dog at OU. And Patty Gasso probably was pretty blunt about it too. Like, you got to work. So,
I think maybe she was an East Coast person, not a West Coast person, but she's definitely
I want to remember the East and West.
No big deal there. No big deal either way. But either way, it wasn't close to Austin, Texas. Okay.
Yeah.
And so just another barb in the rivalry. Just another reason to, hate on Mike White just a little bit more. And, just gives us some more fuel to the fire as we get to that. But speaking of fire, we are fired up for Friday night. We are ready for it. It's kind of counting down the week. It's our last week of school as we get ready to end out the semester. I know we're all looking forward to the holidays and all that stuff. But guys, OU is in a playoff game against Alabama on Friday night. Let's freaking go.
So Steve, are you playing hooky Friday and going up early or?
I am going to go to work that morning and then I am going to cut out a little bit early. So students, make sure you finish your semester test. Mr. Goss may not be there, but he knows.
It is just awesome to think that where we were last year and now, and that's why I said we're playing with house money. We're playing with house money. And I think, like, to me, you look at it, if we happen to win this game on Friday, the momentum that we take into the Rose Bowl is we can make a run at this. And that's all I'm going to say.
We don't want to put the cart in front of the horse, but Jeremy and I feel pretty good going forward. Shocker, I know, to everyone, but we feel pretty good. We also feel pretty good when you send us an email at soonercast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear more from you. Pretty decent numbers last week, but we know that after we win on Friday, we're going to have a great one this weekend. So share the word now.
Yep. And subscribe to us on YouTube. We're at 173. I'd love to get at 200. Like, keep those numbers going. Follow us on Apple and Spotify, and hopefully on Sunday when we're doing our playoff pod, which I didn't ever think I'd be saying, we'll be celebrating and looking forward to playing Indiana in the Rose Bowl. So until next time, Boomer Sooner.
Boomer.